Ladies and gentlemen, we love that you are joining us here, and we hope that you could do us a favor. If you are liking our episodes, please share them. Tell us that you like them. Leave us a review, and we will be eternally grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, you are with the Wizard and the Priestess. My name is Nola, and this is...
Matt, what are we doing rap sounds?
Just happened. I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. This is our week. We have just closed the eclipse portal, the first one of the year. We will have a little bit more of a breakdown coming in for you to delve a little bit deeper, further than the priestess has available. Soon, we will let you know when that occurs.
We will.
For now, what were we going to dive into? Oh, actually, no, we have a question that I just remembered. Or actually, let's start with the illustrious dad joke.
Oh, I really should write these down. Do you know why balloons are so expensive?
Balloons, are they?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
It's because of inflation.
So what, if we just bought it without the air in it, it'd be cheaper?
I'll show myself out.
Well, thank you for that one. And now our question, let me pull it up. This has come in from a listener. Thank you, Anita. We appreciate you listening. Let me find your question here. The question is regarding water fasting, and she has shared that she's attempted a few different fasts but on both occasions she started to feel really unwell or sick after 48 to 54 hours, and she felt dizzy and had headaches and no energy. And she wasn't sure if that was normal, but she only just discovered that women should only fast for the first half of their cycle. So she was wondering if we had any more tips on that. And the main reason she likes to fast is for detoxification. Would you like to?
There were multiple parts to that. Can you tell me the first one?
Sorry.
Oh.
Essentially, she wants to know if we have any tips about particularly women fasting, and that she has felt she's tried to do, say, a 3-day fast, and she has found that she's had to stop at the 2-day mark because it's just been too much.
Yeah, the physiology of women certainly built different to men. It can often take anywhere from 2 to 4, 5 days to actually get the detox effect. So she might just be getting the detox effect from it. Depends what kind of sick it is as well.
Well, it's dizziness and headaches and lethargy.
Well, that's pretty common for a detox response. And the more toxic the system, the more symptoms are likely to occur.
Mm.
So whether it's that or whether it's, just her not needing it really, and a water fast might not be suitable for her. Maybe an elimination thing or a juice fast or a heavy metal detox or something. Other than that, she's tried it several times and it's the same effect every single time, then it's probably not serving her the way.
Or it could be exactly that. It is the detoxification process. And so you need to sit through that to actually get the gold on the other side. So I think that water fasting is not for the faint-hearted, shall we note.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously downplayed Hampus's 21 days of water fasting because I've had people be like, oh, he just cruised through and then he's been, no, it wasn't cruisy.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, it wasn't. But I mean, you weren't close to death is what I'm saying. Like I was expecting you to be curled over. But it is to be said that the first 3 to 5 days are some of the hardest. And then first 10 days is actually the hardest part of most fasts. Then obviously the refeeding at the other end. But so I would say potentially we got to get really clear on your hormones as well. And if you're taking any medications, so you should never be taking any medications for a week leading into. And that sort of, I would include supplementation in that as well. Herbal medicines and slightly different because they're working via a more simple digestive pathway. But yeah, we've got to get clear on that because if you're taking supplements, then you're actually going to be working against those as well. And you want to clear those out of your system for a week.
And also another thing, if you're on a water fast, a lot of people they'll just have water and nothing else. But your body needs electrolytes. So if you're not having the salt with the water, then you're going to feel all kinds of stuff from that, depending what your body's strategy / pattern is as well.
Yeah, so making sure that you are essentially for a 3-day water fast, you want to be making sure that you're having enough salt, enough water, and you're resting. I know that like a lot of people can say that, I did a fast and this is the experience I had, but like a fast or a cleanse or any of those things, it's taking your body to quite what do I say, like stretched position. You are like pushing. It is not a thing to do when you're not feeling 100% necessarily. Or it is a thing to do if it's a last resort. But I feel like it's not something to take lightly. But then again, I can only share from my experience, which is not a lot because I haven't done fasting myself. I've done intermittent fasting, but not on a not deliberately. And I would say that, is probably more important than anything that you do. You're feeling supported on your journey and give yourself some space to rest. And if you can give yourself that space to rest, then you are going to feel the benefits of it.
Yeah, because if you're water fasting but still doing your normal day to day, that's probably not going to work out so well.
No, it's going to be difficult. It's making it more difficult. I know that once you've gotten through the first few days or the first 5 days, maybe you probably get to a point potentially where you feel a bit better. But some people don't feel good at all until they're off the fast. And that can also be part of the cleansing from a water fast. What do we call that? Like it's not biological, but it's the like physiological perspective. So it might, so I hope that helps, but definitely don't recommend doing fasts. As a woman, you need to be really conscious of that. And sometimes what I've heard is that, and you'd have to look up the people that really hone in on fasts and look for those, Tyler Tolman, I'm sure, has plenty of information about, he's like, he likes fasts. He's got all the input and information on that. There's also another lady who, I'm sorry, I've forgotten her name, but she has created a thing called Fast Like a Girl, which goes into certain bits and pieces. But what I would suggest is that if you are doing a fast, that you consider that in the morning, as your hormones start to rise, sometimes you might actually need to have lemon juice, or you might actually you can't maybe do the full water fast if you're only doing a 3-day fast. I don't know. But especially if you're doing intermittent fasting, you definitely as a woman should be having something in the morning as the testosterone comes online to help curb any that's why we break the fast in the morning with food.
Do you think it would still count as water if you can see through the substance?
No.
Like a tea, like a herbal tea that you can see through. Would that count as?
I wouldn't go on the looking through it because glucose water looks pretty see-through, and that is not at all having no impact on
No
the
positive.
stores.
Yeah.
No positive. But it's like it's not not having an effect because it's see-through. But yeah, definitely you can have herbal teas if that feels like it's serving. I think just that base that on that herbal teas that are essentially non-caffeinated herbal teas.
Because that'll help balance blood sugar. Is
Okay,
that,
so that might be the thing to start the day with if you're on
yeah,
doing a water fast. I know that through Hampus's 21 day, they offered herbal teas. He didn't use any, but that was a thing. That
hardcore.
was an option. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that answers some of your question. But I definitely don't feel like an expert in the fasting field, but I definitely, from my physiological knowledge, I would be saying as a woman, I would fast over my ovulation, and depending on your cycle as well. I would fast before I would fast on the day of ovulation until a couple of days after. If you are having problem with your ovulation, you are not ovulating between like the same time every month, you don't really want to toy with that hormonally either. I remember we've got to remember that we work before it to receive the gift afterwards. So once you have ovulated would be when I would say a fast would be good to do. If you have any particular hormonal issues where you're not you're not ovulating at the same time each month, just be conscious of that because that fast will then actually help your next ovulation because you do the work before it in the say if you want to work on a particular phase of your cycle, you should be working before it, not afterwards or during necessarily.
Such a big topic.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we could go on that journey for a long while. Coming back, what we were going to dive into today was the word allergies, was it not?
Well, intolerances slash
Oh,
allergies.
intolerances. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's probably one of the most common things I would work with on some level with pretty much every single person. And it's one of, we talk about diet and lifestyle, and I think was it our third or fourth episode we did on digestion.
Mm.
It is really one of those aspects of our day to day being that really sets us up to either make or break the spread of any disease, absolutely any disease. And it is such an overlooked aspect of health that everyone's got an opinion. And of course, every person I ask if they feel bloated, I get no. That though, when you do a simple assessment on their core, the core doesn't fire. And
Mm-hmm.
usually, one of the number one indicators that the core isn't firing up is food intolerances, food additives, food preservatives, dot, dot, dot. And it probably doesn't get a lot of airtime, especially within the strength conditioning community, but also just, we talk about gut health and the microbiome and inflammatory bowel this and, whatever the words are. However, no one really goes into food intolerances, food allergies, what they are, what they're not, etc., etc. Is there an Eastern philosophy on that at all? Well, they probably wouldn't barely be a thing for them, would it?
Well, I think it is definitely a thing, and there's definitely like a lot of literature and research done around the digestive implication of foods and intolerances. And I think that's what you're talking about, right? Like how food plays a
Mm-hmm.
role and like certain foods and where all of a sudden. So I would I would ask the question, what is your thought around that?
Around
So
food tolerances.
Yeah, no, but like, what is your belief around that? So, for example, have you decided that you have a food intolerance and you continue to decide that? Or
It's not, sorry, finish your question.
like, are you deciding that? Or is it something else entirely and you've just stuck to that? Like, for example, peanuts or um, something like that, or like milk, dairy milk, or.
Okay, so we could go, okay. So for me, if I eat chicken eggs, I will get a croaky throat for about 3 weeks from one serving of eggs. Now, when I ate eggs for breakfast for every day for, let's say, a decade,
Mm-hmm.
and I continuously had the sensation to clear the throat, the need to do that. Frequent blocked sinuses, occasionally itchy eyes and itchy nose, itchy throat, etc. Now, when I got tested, and this was not recent, but when I got tested, it showed a high intolerance for chicken eggs. So whether I believe that, I'm going to say yes, because I feel like shit when I eat it. So it's more of it's not a fact of a belief. It's a real time feedback that I'm getting from my body. Now,
Yeah.
whether it is actually, if you broke it down scientifically and got all the data and the numbers and the biochemical reactions, blah, 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 is it an intolerance? Don't know. But that's the current label I had at that. So I've stuck with it and it served me quite well. And now I don't feel bloated anymore.
Okay. Right. So I would say go back to when it started becoming the croaky throat and the itch because there is something then.
This is this is me going back.
Is that how you have to do it?
Yep.
Like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Let me have it. For those watching the video, this is gonna I can't remember the start, like day one.
Uh-huh. You see to need to find day one.
But when I cut out eggs, it went away. Other than that, I'm pretty perfect.
So my new frame of thinking, and I guess this has always been my frame. When I studied Chinese medicine from the very beginning, I always believed in the body. I don't believe the body does things out of of a whim. And I remember there wasn't really that when it came down to it. So when I was practicing, I would always find the disharmony and treat the disharmony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, if someone had like eczema is like a pretty common one where there's like it's like I get this. It's the thought or the belief is I get this in relation to my drinking of cow's milk. I've done the test. It shows that I have a heightened
Response.
histamine level is what I
Yeah.
want to say, histamine response to that. And therefore, this is in correlation to that. Now, I have this newfound thinking that that may or may not be the truth anymore. That was that the was that something coming in or was that the thought coming in for you? For
That's
like, oh, I remember.
sure.
Is that what happened? After you
There's some engines outside.
okay. Um, so anyway, I'm thinking about this more and more, and like this idea of when things go awry, especially in terms of allergies, it's almost like your body is stuck, incapable of truly healing. It is not fully going through the complete process of here's an issue, I then have this experience, I then move through it. And my body can now rest because it has completely understood it. So, with your eggs, for example, I truly believe that something happened at the beginning of that allergy. I believe that you were eating eggs prior to that. And when you figure out what happened, you will find a way that your body will then go, I can now eat eggs.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. It's not where I was planning to go with that conversation, but good to know we're here now. Yes, something may have happened. Something to do with me speaking out or articulating what I want or something like that. And yeah.
Maybe we've solved your problem. Have you tried eggs?
Yeah. Probably
When?
I want to say 6-ish months ago.
Uh-huh.
I had the same reaction.
Okay. Because that tells me from my idea now that you still haven't actually digested whatever problem was from the beginning.
Maybe, yeah.
But it is, I mean, we can continue, but I feel like it's definitely not something to, don't like keep pushing it. Like, don't keep having eggs in the hope that nothing, next minute you're going to have like a full on anaphylactic reaction. But there's something to that. Your body hasn't completely resolved. And biologically, it includes the brain, the thinking, the mental, and the body itself, the digestive system, because we are not one without the other. We know this, right? But I think when it comes to intolerances or allergies, we can kind of go, well, the thinking brain, and it's not just the thinking brain, it's like the biological function of the brain. Like there is something in those that you create, like maybe not created, but biologically those eggs did potentially do something, or eating the egg created, when you ate the egg, you had a story. Like I think about this all the time when people say that, oh, I've eaten this thing my whole life and now I ate it and it made me sick and I'll never eat it again. That to me is a story and not really a biological truth.
What, on that line of thinking, food allergy, go.
Yes.
Food allergy can kill you, right?
Absolutely can.
So what's the story?
And so I would say,
From your angle of yeah.
So from that angle of thinking, I would suggest that something happened to have that belief. Something happened that made you think that this egg is now the danger, or the my skin flares in this way because I'm having, like, think of it from that skin perspective of like, well, what is the skin doing? It's trying to protect us. So was there an experience where the boundaries were crossed and there was something that happened in that particular experience that the boundary was crossed, and therefore the body created these cells in a specific way in a particular part of the body exactly as it needed to in order to keep the body protected because the boundary was crossed. And that boundary could have been likely crossed psychologically. So that's not to say go out and drink cow's milk if you're allergic, or, go and eat peanuts, because now you can understand that it's not the food, because currently it is the food. Currently the food is actually playing out this conflict for you or this issue.
So are you saying the food is representative of the underlying psychological theme / story?
Could be.
Okay. So a typical, just from a physical viewpoint, an intolerance is something that pretty much overstimulates the mucous membranes within the mucosal cells, be it stomach, sinus, small intestine, wherever. So you get an overproduction, which is an immune response. Now that's not too bad, because some symptoms might include bloating, maybe a headache, lower back pain, viscerosomatic reflex, gas, etc. A food allergen will create an anaphylactic response, which will close up airways.
Yep.
So someone who's allergic to peanuts might have a peanut and then their entire airways will just swell and shut and block air. So what would be from
a physiological perspective, why would the body do that?
Well, I'm asking about the psychological theme of that. And a quick follow-up to that question. Do you, in that line of thinking again, are there certain foods that people just don't respond well to?
Yeah, okay. So that second question would be no.
So everyone can eat anything?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say biologically there is something going on that is impacting us. So, and it doesn't just impact the brain or the thinking, it also impacts the body and the whole. So it's not just one, you don't have one, it's all three, all aspects of the body happening at the same time. It's all at the same time.
Intertwined.
So intertwined. So it's like this idea that, what was that first part of the question then? Was in this line of thinking, how would
I can't remember. Did I ask, I guess, what the difference is?
Yeah, so why would, the mucus, like why would someone have anaphylaxis over having?
So why can you get a discomfort response compared to a potential death response?
Death. And I'm just moving from my own thinking here, in my own like opening this sort of line of thought.
Oh, I like it.
But it makes me think that people have different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we are told something, so in a moment, like I can just go from people I've experienced in my life. Like I don't tend to put too much energy onto foods and problems with foods. I've never really done the like with my kids, I remember, I would give them the food and I would maybe when we started eating the first foods they ever had, I would give them one food and then like just test it out. And then in a few days we might try another food, but it wasn't like a specific regime. It was just kind of doing it. And then there'd be a day where they might have peanut butter, eggs, avocado, like all these things all in the one go. And I lost the like, trying to do one food at a time thing. So I would never know to come back to that food. However, I have watched friends of mine freak out about giving their kid peanuts. They'd never had it before. And now the kid just coughed. Holy shit. We may have a problem. And I believe that conflict that parent had a bigger impact on that child because of the concern about the potential risk than the actual risk itself. Now, I'm not saying then give the kid more peanuts let's just test it out. I'm saying that where it began potentially was the conflict that the mother was having with that particular thing, whatever it might be, milk, peanuts, whatever it was. And that therefore has had an impact in the way that the body and the brain function in consuming that now. Because when we think about how we are, I see it in my own children. When I am not 100%, by golly, my children are not 100%. And it has got nothing to do with the food that we ate that day. Maybe it's less to do with the amount of sleep we had. But if I energetically am not functioning, I'm not thinking from a like clear, calm place and I'm not moving energetically from a clear, calm place, my little humans are vibrating on that. And so when it comes to intolerances and things like that, I think there can be stories, especially in little children, that come from us as parents. And I mean, I am not immune to that. Like my kids definitely, I can see. I did this thing with Luana when she was little. Don't recommend doing it to anyone, but I have somehow scarred her from the vacuum cleaner. And not even somehow. I was playing around. I wanted to vacuum the house and I was playing around with the vacuum cleaner and she wanted me to pick her up and I didn't want to pick her up because I wanted to vacuum the house because obviously I needed to vacuum because I was needing it to be clean. And I just zoomed around the vacuum thing and I went vroom, like at her height, this little 6-month-old baby, and I zoomed at her with the vacuum cleaner. And now this poor little child is quite afraid of vacuum cleaners. She's now 5.5. She's less afraid of it, but I can sense that like she doesn't like it. And that to me, it's not vacuum cleaners that she's intolerant to, but there is something in that action that has now left an imprint that we will essentially work through, or it'll show up in some other way.
So now she thinks vacuuming sucks.
Oh, you got it in there. You got it in there.
You're saying a food intolerance / allergy is more symbolic representative of an intolerance / allergy of life events.
Yeah, could be.
But also keep in mind your kids would have been raised on an organic or better part, mostly organic diet, right?
Yeah.
So I also put the question, and I think it's rhetorical, but feel free to chime in. Is it the food itself or is it the pesticide residue, the GMOs, the additives, the preservatives, the colorings, the waxes, all the synthetic materials that irritate our body and disrupt our hormonal system?
So it could be the stuff, obviously, that is having an impact on the physiology of the body. And like I obviously choose minimal, try and aim for minimal impact on those like chemicals, essentially. Too many chemicals become a poison. That is my perspective on that. And the body's ability to actually break those things down is going to be impacted by how much we're consuming. So if we're consuming a pesticide-riddled diet, we are then using pesticides. We are then using chemical cleaners throughout our home. We are like not necessarily getting onto the earth to kind of bring ourselves out of state of like shock or physical shock from all the poison.
It's also not just the cleaners, but it's the new carpet gives off something like 30,000 new chemical things a year in its first year. A car is like 60,000. So all these
totally
things,
and
yeah.
I do believe they add up, but I don't believe they have as much impact as we are giving them, because I think that the strength of a system comes, like, we still need to come back to the strength of the system itself to actually detoxify in a way that it does its job. Now, we are obviously being impacted by more and more of these things. So therefore something like a fast or something like, organic food and being conscious of what we're eating and what we're consuming in our mind, so we're not taking up too much space. But I do truly believe that it comes down to the actual building blocks of the foundation of the system over the little pieces on top. What do you think?
Yeah. So I'm hearing you say the psyche has more influence over the system than any other system over the system.
Yeah, I would say the way that you think about something and the way that you process has a big impact on how you process something. However, you still need to have a foundational base. So
Yeah.
we can't like just make make a baby in a robot and think that that child's going to have the same outcome
Mm.
as a child that's been grown inside a woman's womb.
Mm. Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I think well, both are obviously important. I don't think we can I don't think we can um if we have a unhealthy mindset or psyche, whatever word you want to use for that, then firstly we're not going to have good choices in regards to food. Also, we won't even have the capacity to deal with the things we need to deal with in that regard. But also, if you're not eating well and you're not having a clean diet and you're eating foods that are sprayed with insecticide, fungicide, herbicide, etc., then you're going to feel the effects of that, even at the physical cellular level, which is going to impact your digestion. It's going to, as digestion goes down, your capacity to think goes down. Therefore, you won't have the tools to work on it or even compute it at that psychological level anyway. And you definitely won't get a flat tummy, which is what a lot of people go to the gym for, doing crunches till they're pretty much at a 90-degree angle. But
Yeah,
yeah, I can't
because
remember
it's more
train of
than
thought with that.
just, but it's always going to be more than just one thing. But there
What?
is we've got the where it comes down to it could be one thing is when someone told you eggs were bad and you then like now it's not just that. There's more layers to this, but it's sort of you had some form of shock experience that you weren't expecting that happened, and your body then had to run this program that said that, okay, when we consume this food now, we must increase mucosal activity, mucosal membranes. We need to increase the amount of mucus in the system. We need to like push it out, push it out, push it out. We need to create inflammation. And then every time you have eggs and you affirm for yourself that eggs are bad, we then have that system running again. But yes, you cannot do crunches and crunch away your intolerance or your digestive weakness.
No, because there's no direct metabolic pathway between the digestive organs and the abdominal wall, because that's where you're going with that. Two
Yeah.
two follow-up questions then. What's that that ideology in relation to genome, and also what's that in relation to lack of variety in one's diet?
Well, the lack of variety is going to cause a weakened foundation. So a weakened foundation is never good.
So someone that has the same foods every single day,
Yeah.
is that,
So
would you say that ties into the psychological pattern as well?
yes, it can. It's going to. However, when that shock experience occurred, when that initial behavior started, when that biologically your body went, well, someone's body went, I can no longer consume this thing. Or the body went, I need to build extra thick layers over my system to ensure the boundary is like strong and sorted. You know, I am going to overgrow cells, and I'm going to make sure, like biologically, that something switched. And then your body decided that this was the way to be well. To do this thing is actually serving a purpose. And I think that's where I'm coming from, is the intolerance in some way has somehow decided that it's serving a purpose. And then we create a bit of a story as to, we don't actually get to the bottom of that. We don't believe necessarily the body's it's serving a purpose. So therefore we just think it's something to fight against. And then we never actually look a little bit deeper and go, okay, what is it that I'm fighting against? Or what is it that my body's doing to help me here?
What about genome?
You talking like epigenetics?
Kind of. I mean, so my body does not do well on Chinese food. Now, I don't believe that's just a story I've told myself.
Okay.
My genome has never really been exposed to any kind of Chinese food, as an example, in its entire life.
As
So
in
does that
little
play?
human,
Hey,
little human Matt, or do you mean like your whole family generational never
generational,
had Chinese food? Okay.
generational.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
what part does a genome requirement play in that?
Well, I would say that it's like there's an aspect of that, but that feels, I mean, from my perspective, it feels more that this brings it more back to the psyche and the spiritual and what gets passed on, less so than what gets passed on from um, well, I read this thing the other day, which was really mind-blowing, and it was about the actual genome itself. What are we, 20, 21? No, 20 chromosomes, and the 21 is
Oh,
one trisomy 21, right?
yeah, I can't
So
remember.
I think it's 21, 20 chromosomes that we have. Or does a male have like the XY thing?
Yeah, the
Female has an
different
extra
number.
pair.
I can't. I'm brain farting on the numbers. I know.
Um, I can't remember if those were anyway, I feel like oh okay, so 23 pairs. And then you get 22 normal. Like everyone has 22. And then the last pair um, is what sex you have.
I mean, that thinking, does that play a part in I would call what I would call a food intolerance, and I feel
Mm.
that you would say food quote unquote intolerance.
Maybe. Would I?
You would.
I just I just think that we are experiencing in order to um we have the potential to have more than one thing playing out at the same time. So you could have had a bit of a shock experience with um the egg that was in the Chinese food. Oh, right. And that was the initial shock. So you had Chinese food once and there was egg in it. And then that separated. Or you had a particular thing and then you decided you lumped that in. Chinese food is the reason. I don't believe it's a genome expression issue. I believe digestively you're quite fine, functioning well. But I think that something may have happened around that first consumption of Chinese food. And then the thought now that you've decided Chinese food is just the thing. It's not good for you.
So if I have, let's say, I don't know, what do people eat a lot of?
Avocado. I eat a lot of avocado. That's
I was
that's
thinking
interesting.
more like what people think might be healthy, like white bread
Well, people
slash
know that's healthy.
pasteurized dairy,
Yeah.
sugar, coffee.
People know that that's not healthy.
Well,
Okay.
not everyone knows they're not healthy. I know lots of people who think white bread's full packed with fiber. So
No, they don't. These aren't
I
normal
can
people
prompt
that I don't know who you're
no,
talking
well,
to.
I don't these are
Do you want to
people
bring him on?
outside,
Bring him on the show.
my parents, will argue black and blue that white bread's good for you because it's jam packed with fiber, because on the packet it says enriched with fiber or whatever it says.
Okay, right. So they're accepting that the multinational businesses aren't just trying to market to them to make money.
Absolutely. That is their belief. Now,
Mm.
I asked them, so do you feel bloated or do you feel like crap when you eat that? They tell me no. And I believe that they believe they don't.
So that works for them.
But then you and I, knowing what we know, and we can see these things and we can, we can tell
Yeah.
that they're blind to it.
Mm.
I forgot where I'm going with this question, but oh, yes. So that works for them. They don't, are they not feeling bloated, or have they become so numb to themselves that that's played into the belief? And
Yeah.
they think it's
I
serving
think
them
they
instead
don't
of it
even
actually
feel,
serving them.
I don't think it's serving on a foundational core level. But what I do believe is it's probably better that they are in complete comfortability with that, with eating that, than it is to be in fear. And that's something that I truly believe, like in the holistic realms, we have so many people that are afraid. They're so afraid of consuming too much of anything, so afraid. The other end, it's the other side of the spectrum. You're better off smoking a pack a day cigarettes and feeling fine about it than you are concerning yourself with the off gas that comes from your brand new carpet that you just put in your house, or walking around with a device that checks the EMFs. Like, I'm not saying that those things are not good for you, but on a foundational level, I think we need to get clear on ensuring that we are actually supporting and nourishing our whole. And this is where we can get a bit stuck, where we get a bit too focused on it. And now I'm not saying that you should disregard eating good food and looking after yourself. I'm not saying we should, but I'm just saying that we also can create things in our minds about how we feel about these things. And we will probably need to dive a little bit more into the physiology of intolerances next time, because I feel like, Matt,
There is someone at the door. It's true.
there's someone at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is the Oracle herself, Morgana, at the door, coming in to share her news of what is going on astrologically. Welcome, Morgana.
Thank you. How's it going?
We are good. We have been deep diving, haven't we, Matt?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we want to know what is going on in the energetic world.
Well, we are at the mouth of the eclipse. We are a few days out, or tomorrow actually, so probably when people are listening, having the new moon, which will be the solar eclipse. And yeah,
which occurred on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. Saturday the 29th of March at 9:57 p.m. for us in Australia, in Sydney. And yeah, it's not going to be visible in our skies, but the energy will be there nonetheless. And it's happening in Aries, which is the sign of bold, instinctive courage and the personal self. So there's going to be some kind of rebirth taking place within the way that we view ourselves, the way that we allow others to view us. Talking in terms of the houses, Aries rules the first house, which is the I am house, the mask or the persona, what we put out into the world. And yeah, it'll be tied to whatever we felt coming up around the lunar eclipse that happened a couple of weeks ago, because that was connected to this one and taking us into that portal where we've been through this underworld journey in the last couple of weeks, and really were triggered to release something that was coming up in the shadows at that time. And as we're journeying through here, we're allowing ourselves to sit in this liminal space as something new is coming through. And yeah, with this new moon, we're about to launch into the wildness, and whatever we've cut from our sphere is going to come through.
How are you feeling that, Matt?
Since the start of the conversation. Yeah.
The transformation. I think it feels like this has felt really potent. Is there any particular people that would be feeling the energy of this more so than others?
I guess it just depends how sensitive you are to the energies, and depending also what placements you have in your birth chart. So this solar eclipse will be happening at 9 degrees Aries. So if you have any planets, personal planets that are at 9 degrees or close to 9 degrees, that particular energy will be getting activated. If you look to where in your birth chart that sits as well, which house that's in, then that is the flavor of energy. So some energies are more strong, some of them are more subtle. If it's happening in the 12th house, for example, it might be more of an internal process that is taking place, or the 8th house, a psychological process that is being transformed. Whereas if you have Aries rising and Aries is ruling your first house, then it'll be your whole sense of self being recalibrated. It's going to depend on which area of the chart the eclipse falls. But because we're not going to be seeing it in our skies in Australia, it's going to be more of a subtle energy as well, I feel. Like it's going to require a lot of trust and faith, and we're really diving into the abyss. I've got this image of the Fool in the tarot card coming up, and he launches himself off this cliff and he doesn't know where he's going, but he's being led on this beautiful journey. And that's kind of where we are, especially sitting, because we don't necessarily know what path is ahead, but Aries requires us to take that leap and jump forwards and trust that we'll find our footing as we go.
Sounds magical and also a bit, daunting maybe. Have you got anything that this episode will be going out on Tuesday. I know we've kind of got the shadow of the eclipse portal, the new moon will be until probably Monday. So we're kind of people are going to be hearing about this on Tuesday, and they're going to be going, okay, how will I feel like a sudden catapult into the ether? Or will I feel, how is this? Obviously, it's going to be within your particular flavor of your house and your placements. But Aries being as bold as it is within this energetic, like, propulsion and movement that we are being catapulted. I mean, I definitely felt myself in that. But then also I feel a little bit like I'm being like pulled back by the Centaur's bow, it's about to let go. It hasn't quite gone yet. So do you feel like that sitting on this in Tuesday, that energy would be about, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Are we going to see more of it, Yes, like people have been talking about the March energies, but now we're in April.
Yeah, well, it's the astrological new year as well, which is tied to this energy of something new happening, and we're still kind of sitting in that space of the waxing moon at the moment, where typically the waxing moon phase is still that lower energy, that release, that pulling back of something, and the new moon brings that birth. If you do any gardening, you'll often be advised to wait until the new moon to plant the seeds, because the new moon, and when it begins that waxing phase, will pull that seedling up and bring that energy forward. So the same thing's happening with us. We're bringing this energy up, but we're still sitting in this space in the lead up to the new moon, where we're kind of, like you say, being pulled backwards. We're not being pulled into that birth just yet. So you might get senses of what's happening, but the energy will start to move forwards within that space. However, there's always a lot more than just one occurrence taking place within the skies. So we've got Mercury and Venus both in retrograde at the moment, which is pulling things backwards and inwards in some ways as well. That's the way that we think. That's the way that we relate in, you know, the self-worth kind of space. And so we've still got those energies pulling us into a more introspective arena. And so while there will be a certain moving forwards with the moon, there will be still energies that are maybe pressing up against us. So Aries requires us to be bold. It's the warrior sign. It's, you know, it's taking this real push. And so even though there may not be there might not be a clear path laid, it requires us to be really trusting and to be really taking charge and feeling on those subtle levels where we're being called forwards. And the more resistance that you have to what you're being very subtly pulled towards, the more you'll feel like you're still stuck in that liminal space. But there is an opening there for you to move forwards if you are brave enough.
How long have we got of the retrogrades? How long are they going to be around for some time?
They'll be going into April. So the Venus one, I think I have to double check the dates. I think the Venus one is until the 11th of April and Mercury is the 25th, or the other way around. But sort of within this second weeks of April, we're going to be in the retrograde of these phases, slowly emerging, slowly coming out. We've got some other really interesting things happening as well, though. There's actually a shift from Neptune moving from the sign of Pisces into Aries on, what date is that? March 3rd.
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah,
so
Sunday.
Just
passed. Yeah, so that's a big one. It hasn't been in Aries for 150 years.
And what is Neptune highlighting on a general place?
Subconscious. It's that inner child, that womb space, that collective field. It's the energies that are the more subtle, dreamy, sometimes a little bit disconnected from reality. And so we've been in the Pisces Neptune for the last, I'm not going to say how long. It's been a while.
But let's say it's 150 years. It's probably 20 years of
a long
right?
time. So we've been in this space where it's been, you know, that it's in its home. So Pisces is ruled by Neptune. And so it's been in that watery space. We've been double charged with this energy of being maybe slightly disconnected from the reality, from the grounding. And then as we're coming into this Aries, we're going to be feeling that stuff that's been tiptoeing around up in the clouds coming down into earth and taking that bold action. And that's going to be visible on a collective scale because the whole earth is shifting into that. But then it's going to retrograde again and we'll tiptoe back into Pisces before making a full dance into the Aries. So it'll be kind of a tentative space throughout April where there's energy starting to boldly come through, but it's not going to be probably until the solar eclipse and lunar eclipse that happen in September, which is the next phase of this eclipse cycle, where things will sort of start to become a little bit more clear again, the things that we're working with at the moment, kind of pushing us to just take these really trusting, bold steps. And then in September, when we're working with those energies of the Virgo and the Pisces discernment again, we'll be able to refine the energies and have a little bit more clarity around what was happening. It's like when you take an action, you can look back and see with hindsight what needed fixing or changing or what was working or what wasn't. And it's not until you take those really bold steps that you're able to see the bigger picture. So we're kind of in this cosmic playground at the moment. We've just got to give it our all and see what happens.
Sounds exciting, exhilarating, and also very I don't know. I feel pretty good about that. How do you feel, Matt? Do you feel ready?
Always ready. Always ready. One question I would have is how important is intention in regards to all the energies that are influencing us?
Intention is going to become very important around September when we have the next cycle and that Virgo solar energy, which is that mind, discernment, rational thought, all of that. Aries is very much don't think about it. The lunar eclipse that we just had was very much release, where you're holding on too tight. Allow yourselves to be a little more open and surrendered. So you need to be paying attention to what's happening within you at all times anyway. I feel that, you've got to be clear on where your own energy is being directed. When we were working with that lunar eclipse a couple of weeks ago, that Virgo energy asks us to really be clear on what it is that is not serving us and becoming aware of, those mental habits. Virgo energy likes to really put things into boxes and categories, and sometimes that can hinder action. We can spend so long putting things into order that nothing ever arises from it. So at the moment when we're moving through the Aries energy, the Mars energy, it's all about boldness. And so it's really taking action. It's not thinking about it too much. And then when we come to that space in September, it's going to be really important that we look back and reflect on what we're doing, and we'll have a lot more clarity. We'll be able to think a lot clearer with Mercury in the retrograde at the moment as well. Those thoughts are not necessarily going to be super clear. So yeah, I really feel that the energy is more pushing us to be in a trusting space. And as Neptune is moving into that Aries, that's even heightening that, because we're really connecting to that Neptunian space of the psychic or the unseen, really connecting to what we can't see, what we can't rationalize, and allowing it to move through us without too much interference.
Wow, thank you. So I guess from that perspective, intention is not going to have too much of a role right now.
Well, yeah, I feel like the biggest intention we can set is to trust ourselves and to be, just aware of the way that we're carrying ourselves, and aware of the subtle signals and energies, and allow ourselves to be pulled in the way that soul is trying to direct us and move our bodies, rather than interfering and judging it before we've allowed something to come through. This is an energy of birth, so we're bringing forth from this very primal space. And in birth, you don't think. In birth, you check out. But you've got to have that intention before you go in, which is to be trusting, to be surrendered, to be open, to be curious, to have that childlike energy where you're able to be aware with what's coming up in the present, rather than clinging to the ideas of what should or shouldn't be. So we can really calibrate with the truth.
Amazing. I appreciate you coming on, Morgana, to give us those insights. And we will, feel into that. And we might try and have you on again soon when the energies start to adjust a little bit more deeply.
Perfect.
Basically, when Noor starts to lose her shit, you're coming on, Morgan.
Put everything into perspective.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we need to do.
All
right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Please write a comment, leave us a review, connect to us in any way, send us your messages or your questions. Really appreciating that. And yeah, we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Positive comments only. Otherwise, it sounds like a secret.
All right, guys. Peace.
Peace.
You've been listening to The Wizard and the Priestess. Thanks for stopping by. Stay connected and be open.